You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. That's not just a quote from Darren Hardy. That's the truth most people run from. See, everyone wants to be successful, but very few want to do the boring, unsexy, invisible things that success is built on. We live in a world obsessed with hacks and shortcuts, where overnight millionaires flood your feed, and every failure gets blamed on the algorithm. But here's the harsh reality. Success is not sexy. It's not sudden. It's not something you stumble into. It's earned, slowly, quietly, repetitively. Every entrepreneur who made it didn't win with one brilliant decision. They won with thousands of small, smart, invisible ones, repeated daily. That's the compound effect. Imagine this. Two people, same age, same job, same salary. One decides to cut 125 calories a day. That's a cookie. The other doesn't change anything. After 5 months, no difference. 10 months, maybe a pound or two. 18 months later, one person is 30 pounds lighter. The other gained weight and feels worse. The difference? Invisible choices made consistently over time. Now, zoom out. Apply this to business. One entrepreneur makes 5 sales calls a day, even on bad days. Another waits until it feels right. One reads 10 pages of a good book every morning. The other scrolls for 30 minutes and says they're too busy to learn. 6 months later, no major difference. But after 2 years, one is lean, skilled, dangerous. The other is burnt out, bitter, and broke. Small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical difference. That's the formula. But here's why most people never make it. They don't see results fast enough. They start something, a new routine, a strategy, a system. But when the world doesn't clap in the first 30 days, they quit. Why? Because we've been brainwashed to believe success is supposed to feel fast, exciting, and visible. But Hardy warns, the compound effect is always working, for you or against you. Every tiny decision compounds, every skipped workout, every half-hearted effort. Every time you say, "I'll do it tomorrow," it stacks up. Most people aren't failing dramatically. They're just coasting subtly into mediocrity. The biggest difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not. Think about that. Success isn't about brilliance. It's about discipline, patience, emotional endurance. Most entrepreneurs don't lack knowledge. They lack consistency. They start things, but they don't stick to them. And the compound effect punishes inconsistency. There's no mercy in momentum. It either works for you or it works against you. Let's talk about momentum, the hidden engine behind success. Darren calls it Big Mo. Momentum doesn't care about motivation. It comes after you've done the boring things, repeatedly. Think of a train. At rest, it can be stopped by a single block of wood on the track. But once it's moving, it can smash through a wall of steel. That's you. At the start, everything feels hard. Your business drags. No one's watching, no one's buying. But if you push through that resistance, if you keep going, even when it's slow, momentum kicks in. And once it does, you become unstoppable. But here's the catch. Momentum is fragile. Miss one day, not a big deal. Miss 2, you're slipping. Miss a week, you're starting over. That's why Hardy says, you can't allow yourself a single exception. Because the compound effect doesn't respond to intention, only action. Let me ask you something. What are your daily habits costing you? Or building for you? That second coffee, that skipped gym session, that ignored email, that 5 minutes of procrastination. These things don't destroy you overnight. They slowly erode your potential, until one day, you wake up wondering where all your time went. On the flip side, a 30-minute walk, a cold email sent, a sales call made, a journal entry written, these small wins may not feel impressive today, but they're stacking, and eventually, they explode into results. It's not the big things that add up in the end. It's the hundreds, thousands of little things that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Most people are addicted to intensity. They want 10x hacks, 75-day challenges, viral breakthroughs. But real entrepreneurs, they know the secret is in consistency. Consistency is the ultimate key to success. You have to discipline yourself to do the same things over and over until you build up the momentum you need. That means showing up every day, especially when it's boring, especially when it feels like nothing's working, because that's when most people quit, and that's when the compound effect begins to separate winners from dreamers. If you're an entrepreneur, you've probably heard this 100 times. Work hard, be consistent, stay focused. But nobody tells you what to do when you're working hard, being consistent, staying focused, and still not seeing results. That's the silent killer, not failure, not fear, but the long, invisible middle, when the compound effect is building silently, and you feel like nothing's happening. This is where most people abandon the process. They look around, compare themselves to others. They say, "I've been doing all the right things. Where's the breakthrough?" But Hardy reminds us, you can only see the results of the compound effect long after the work is done. It's like planting bamboo. For the first few years, nothing, not even a sprout. Then suddenly, in one season, it shoots up 90 feet. Not because of what you did that season, but because of what you did every day, consistently, for years. You're not building success, you're loading it. Every representative, every call, every blog post, every sale, it's stacking behind the curtain. And one day, when it finally tips, the world will say, "Wow, that was overnight." But you'll know better. You'll know it was the compound effect, finally cashing out. Now, let's talk about choices. This might be the most uncomfortable part of the book, because Darren Hardy says something most people don't want to hear. You are 100% responsible for your life. Not the economy, not your ex, not your competition, not your parents, not the algorithm. You. Your results are a mirror of your decisions. Every small one, every day. Think of every choice like a steering wheel adjustment. Tiny shifts, seemingly meaningless. But over a long enough distance, those shifts decide whether you end up in freedom or in regret. Every time you choose to snooze instead of start, every time you say, "I'll do it later," every time you reach for comfort instead of commitment, you're feeding the version of you that's average. But when you make the harder choice, the uncomfortable, inconvenient, disciplined choice, you're feeding the version of you that wins. A daily routine, built on good habits and disciplines, separates the most successful among us from everyone else. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but how do I even start? There's so much to fix. And that's exactly the trap most people fall into. They try to change everything at once. New routines, new habits, new goals, and they burn out in 3 weeks. The compound effect doesn't ask for massive change. It asks for tiny change done daily. Start by reading 10 pages a day. Start by waking up 30 minutes earlier. Start by making one extra sales call. Start by saying no to one distraction. These actions feel small, almost stupid, but that's the point. They're so small you can't fail at doing them, and if you do them every day, you start building identity momentum. Hardy calls this the ripple effect. You don't just create change, you become change. Wake up earlier. You feel more in control. Feel in control. You make better decisions. Make better decisions. You trust yourself more. Trust yourself more. You stop self-sabotaging. And suddenly, a single habit becomes a total identity shift. That's the power of the compound effect. It transforms your life, not with force, but with frictionless repetition. But here's the danger zone. Your environment. Even if you're making small, smart choices, if your environment is toxic, you're fighting uphill. Hardy makes it clear, you will never rise higher than your environment. If your friends mock ambition, you'll start shrinking. If your home is filled with distraction, your focus will suffer. If your workspace is chaos, your brain stays in survival mode. Your job as an entrepreneur is to design your environment to support your future self. Turn off notifications. Delete time-wasting apps, cut off draining people, or at least limit their access to your time. Create friction for bad habits, and remove friction from good ones. And that brings us to tracking, one of the most powerful tools in the book, and one almost no one actually uses. All winners are trackers. You can't improve what you don't measure. Want to lose weight? Track your food. Want to grow revenue? Track your sales activity. Want to reclaim time? Track your screen usage. Want better energy? Track your sleep and inputs. Tracking feels tedious, but it gives you the truth, not just feelings. And truth is where transformation begins. At this point, most people know what to do. The problem isn't knowledge, it's follow-through. So Hardy gives us a tool to stay on track. Bookends. You don't control the chaos of the middle day, but you do control how you start it and how you end it. Morning routine. Prime your mind. Move your body. Define your focus. Evening routine. Reflect. Disconnect. Wind down with intention. Get your bookends right, and your days won't spiral. Your momentum will become predictable. And finally, Hardy drops one of the hardest truths of all. You already know what you need to do. What you need is a plan and a commitment to follow through. You don't need another podcast, another strategy, another shortcut. You need to pick a direction and move in it daily, not for a week, not until you're motivated again, but long enough for the compound effect to do its job. You know what the hardest part of the compound effect is? No one claps for you in the beginning. You wake up early, no one cares. You skip the junk food, no one notices. You post content, build funnels, make calls, and the world stays silent. There's no dopamine, no validation, no instant results. And that's why most people quit. They're not chasing impact. They're addicted to applause. But true entrepreneurs, the ones who win, they operate without applause. They don't need motivation to act. They let action create motivation. Because they've learned this truth. When you do the things you need to do, when you need to do them, the day will come when you can do the things you want to do, when you want to do them. So, what separates those who make it from those who don't? It's not money, not intelligence, not luck. It's the choices you make when no one's watching, when it's cold, when you're tired, when you're overwhelmed. That's where the game is won. Hardy says, it's not the big things, it's the small things, done consistently over time, that build greatness. There's a section in the book where Hardy talks about taking ownership, not just of your wins, but of your patterns. If your business is flatlining, there's a reason. If you keep burning out, there's a pattern. If your team doesn't believe in your vision, there's a cause. And here's the truth that stings. The compound effect is always working. You're either building a better future or digging your own hole. There's no neutral. Every decision is either a deposit or a withdrawal. So the question isn't, how do I win? It's, what am I tolerating that's killing my momentum? Maybe it's the 30 minutes you spend scrolling before bed. Maybe it's skipping your morning routine, just for today. Maybe it's hanging around people who drain your ambition. The compound effect doesn't care about your intentions. It compounds your behaviors. It's not emotional, it's not personal. It simply multiplies what you do, good or bad. Now, let's talk about influence. Hardy dedicates a powerful section of the book to what's shaping your thinking, usually without you noticing. You become the combined average of the 5 people you associate with most. Think about that. If your circle complains more than they create, so will you. If they spend more than they invest, so will you. If they doubt themselves, you will too. But the opposite is also true. Surround yourself with builders, doers, disciplined minds, and watch how fast your standards rise. The compound effect works in your relationships too. You absorb what they normalize. And it's not just people, it's information. Every podcast you listen to, every YouTube rabbit hole you fall into, every book you pick up, it's shaping you. You are feeding your mind. The question is, are you feeding it junk food or real fuel? Hardy doesn't just preach mindset. He preaches mental nutrition. So if you're serious about growth, audit your inputs. Ask, what am I reading every day? What am I listening to on repeat? What do I see when I open my phone in the morning? Because what you consume compounds into belief, into behavior, into identity. One of the most practical exercises in the book is this. Write down everything you do every 30 minutes for a full day. Not to judge, but to see. Because once you see where your time is leaking, you can begin patching the holes. Hardy doesn't care about how hard you work. He cares about what you work on. Don't prioritize your schedule. Schedule your priorities. You're not just busy. You're either investing your time or leaking it. And for entrepreneurs, that distinction is everything. Let's get brutally honest. How many opportunities have you missed? Not because you weren't talented, but because you weren't consistent. How many goals never became reality because you abandoned them too early? How many times have you said, I know what to do, but then didn't do it? That's the trap. You think you need more strategy, but what you need is more follow-through. So, let's recap the heart of this book. Not the surface ideas, the truths Darren Hardy is screaming between the lines. Tiny actions create massive results. The magic is in consistency, not intensity. Momentum is earned and easily lost. Your habits shape your identity. Your choices compound, invisibly. Success is built in silence, not applause. You're either using the compound effect or being used by it. And here's the final gut punch Hardy gives us. You alone are responsible for what you do, don't do, or how you respond to what's done to you. That means you hold the pen. No one's writing your story but you. And if you don't like the results in your life right now, change your inputs, change your habits, change your routines, change what you tolerate, change your direction. Because in the end, success isn't about luck or hype or talent. It's about the invisible, unsexy decisions you make every single day. Let's talk about a dangerous illusion. It's the lie that one big move will change everything. One viral post, one massive client, one perfect investment. That's what people chase, the jackpot. But Darren Hardy makes this crystal clear. What's most important is what you do when no one is watching. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards patterns. And the compound effect has no interest in what you plan to do, only what you actually do. That's the brutal beauty of it. It's completely fair, completely objective, and completely unforgiving if you don't take it seriously. Now, let's go deeper into habits. Habits aren't just actions, they're automated decisions. And Hardy breaks it down simply. Your life comes down to this. Your choices plus behavior plus habits equals your results. The good news? You don't need to overhaul your life. You need to reprogram your systems. Think about it like this. Brushing your teeth takes 2 minutes, but you never skip it, right? It's automatic. What if following up with leads felt that automatic? What if hitting the gym, writing content, or reading 10 pages required no willpower? That's where power lies, turning discipline into default. But to install a habit, Hardy warns, you have to protect the chain. You don't break a habit, you break a streak. And every day you show up, even for 5 minutes, you keep the chain alive. This is why massive change fails, because it requires willpower. But tiny habits, they sneak in, and before long, they own you, in a good way. Let's take it back to business. Most entrepreneurs aren't failing because they don't know what to do. They fail because they don't do it long enough to see results. They chase new models, new mentors, new mindsets, but abandon what works because it gets boring. But boring is beautiful. The most successful people in life are the ones who are willing to do what others find boring. It's boring to make 20 cold calls a day. It's boring to post valuable content consistently. It's boring to review numbers, track habits, stick to budgets. But boring compounds. There's a turning point in every entrepreneur's life when you stop chasing motivation and you start building momentum. Motivation is unreliable. It's emotional. It's fleeting. But momentum, it's mechanical. And once you've got it, it starts doing the work for you. You stop having to push yourself to act. Action becomes automatic. And now you're in the zone where real results happen. Hardy calls this the difference between amateurs and pros. Amateurs do things when they feel like it. Pros do things regardless of how they feel. So ask yourself right now, where in your life are you being an amateur? Where are you relying on energy instead of systems? Where are you making excuses when you should be making progress? The compound effect doesn't care about your story. It only responds to your standards. One of the boldest chapters in the book focuses on eliminating bad habits, not managing them, not cutting back, eliminating them. Hardy says the fastest way to succeed isn't by adding new things. It's by removing what's dragging you down. Look at your routines. Look at your triggers. Look at what you tolerate. The compound effect multiplies everything. So, if you're carrying bad habits, they become anchors. But when you cut them, everything accelerates. Hardy lays out a process for habit elimination. 1. Identify the trigger. What causes the behavior? Time of day, emotion, situation. 2. Eliminate or replace the trigger. Can you avoid it entirely or swap it for a better cue? 3. Design a new response. Plan ahead. What will you do instead? 4. Reward the shift. Reinforce the new behavior, even in small ways. You don't fix bad habits by force. You fix them by strategy. Now, if you've made it this far, here's the truth. Most people won't. Most people hear about the compound effect, nod their heads, and change nothing. They stay trapped in the illusion that later is coming, that one day they'll finally be consistent. One day they'll finally be disciplined. One day they'll finally follow through. But there is no one day. There is only today. And if you don't use it, it compounds against you. Hardy closes the book with something powerful. He says, "You alone are responsible for your outcomes, but that also means you're the solution." Let that sink in. If your business isn't growing, you're not broken. You just need better patterns. If your life isn't where you want it to be, you're not a failure. You just haven't respected the power of small actions over time. But starting today, everything can change. Not with some massive leap, but with one small shift, done daily. Let's go even deeper, into something most entrepreneurs avoid: accountability. Darren Hardy doesn't sugarcoat it. If you want to take control of your life, you have to hold yourself accountable, or find someone who will. Here's the truth. Most people would rather feel good than get results. They surround themselves with people who validate their excuses, not challenge them to rise. But the most successful entrepreneurs, they seek discomfort. They invite pressure. They want people in their lives who say, "You said you'd do this, did you?" Because they understand something critical. You will never outperform your standards, and your standards rise when you're forced to face them. Hardy tells a powerful story about how he wanted to lose a few pounds. So, what did he do? He emailed 5 friends and said, "If I don't lose this weight in the next 90 days, I'll send each of you $100. That's not motivation, that's leverage. Accountability creates consequences, and consequences drive behavior. So ask yourself, who do you report your goals to? Who's watching your progress? Who will call you out if you slack? If the answer is no one, you're in danger, because comfort becomes default when there's no cost to losing momentum. Now, let's shift to something equally powerful: celebration. Yes, the compound effect is about discipline. Yes, it's about consistency. But it's also about recognizing progress, no matter how small. Hardy explains, when you celebrate small wins, you build the emotional fuel to keep going. Because here's what kills momentum: doing all the right things and feeling like it's never enough. That's why most entrepreneurs quit, not because they failed, but because they didn't feel like they were winning. You have to track your wins. You have to see the compound effect working, even before the world notices. So, write down your wins, check off habits, measure the inputs, not for the dopamine, but for the proof that you're building something real. Hardy's strategy is simple, but powerful. Score yourself daily. Did you follow through on your core habits today? Did you execute the actions that move the needle? If yes, that's a win. If not, that's feedback. Success doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from stacking small wins every day until they overflow. Let's revisit one of the core principles of the book, and it might be the one that matters most. You can't fake consistency. You can fake passion. You can fake confidence. You can fake branding. But you cannot fake showing up every single day when it's hard, boring, and quiet. Your behavior is your scoreboard. It reveals your values more than your words ever will. So, if your results are mediocre, look at your rhythm. If your business is stagnant, look at your routine. If your mindset is slipping, look at your inputs. The compound effect is brutally honest. It doesn't care about what you believe. It only reflects what you repeatedly do. So many entrepreneurs stay stuck because they're waiting on something external to change. More time, better tools, a different market, a bigger audience, a lucky break. But Hardy flips the lens completely. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That's not meant to shame you. It's meant to empower you. Because if you created your current results, you can create new ones. And you don't have to do it with force or frenzy. You do it with small steps, done daily, without exception. Let's pause and reflect. Right now, at this very moment, your future is being shaped, not by some event, not by what happens to you, but by what you decide to do next. and then tomorrow, and then the day after that. That's the power and the responsibility of the compound effect. Every small decision is a brick, and over time, those bricks build your reputation, your income, your health, your impact. If you're still listening, still watching, you're not like most people. You're not here for a dopamine rush. You're here because, deep down, you know, you've been waiting too long to take your potential seriously. You've been almost consistent, almost disciplined, almost all in, but almost doesn't compound, only action does. Let's get real. There is no next time. There is no perfect moment. There is no magic system that will do the work for you. There's only now. You already have what you need. You've read the books, watched the courses, taken the notes. Now, it's time to move, to build the habits, to embrace the silence, to respect the process, and to become the person your goals require. Let's talk about something no one wants to admit. Most people sabotage their own success, not because they're lazy, not because they don't want it badly enough, but because success demands predictability, and most people crave variety. They get bored, they want novelty, they want something new, a tactic, a trend, a shortcut. But Hardy calls this out directly. Most people are addicted to the high of starting, not the discipline of finishing. Starting feels good. Finishing requires repetition, resilience, and rhythm. All things that compound over time, silently. And that's exactly why most entrepreneurs stay stuck at potential. Let's break something open. Do you really want success, or do you want the idea of success? Do you want to be free, or do you want to keep flirting with the hustle without ever committing to the process? Because this is where the compound effect hits hardest. Your biggest breakthroughs won't come from doing more. They'll come from doing less, but doing it better and longer than anyone else. It's not about scale. It's about precision. You don't need 100 habits. You need 3 or 4 that you execute every day, without compromise. And when those habits become identity, you no longer try to be successful. You just are. Hardy reminds us of something we often forget. Success doesn't just happen by you. It happens to you. When your behavior finally catches up to your identity. When you see yourself as someone who follows through, keeps promises to yourself, does the hard thing consistently. That identity shapes your decisions, and your decisions shape your destiny. This is why so many people stay stuck in cycles. They try to change results without changing who they are on the inside. They try to fix habits without fixing the self-image that sabotages those habits. But identity change starts with one thing: integrity with yourself. When you keep promises to yourself, your confidence explodes. When you break them, your belief crumbles. The compound effect doesn't just build businesses, it builds self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation for everything. Let's switch gears. Hardy makes a brilliant point about momentum killers, the subtle traps that sabotage progress. He warns about emotional spikes, chasing motivation instead of building systems, all or nothing thinking, where one bad day becomes a total collapse, perfectionism, where nothing gets shipped because it's not ready. Comparison, measuring your chapter 2 against someone else's chapter 20. These are dangerous because they disguise themselves as ambition, but they're actually just resistance in disguise. The real pros, they know how to show up, messy, imperfect, and consistent. A half-finished workout beats no workout. An average email beats no outreach. An imperfect launch beats an endless draft. Let's get tactical again. Hardy says if you want to win, you need to focus on lead indicators, not lag results. Lag results are things like revenue, weight, follower count. They're outcomes, and they come last. Lead indicators are behaviors. How many calls you made, how many pages you read, how many hours you slept, how many deep work blocks you hit. You don't control outcomes, you control inputs. And when your inputs are right, the results eventually come. Always. So stop obsessing over the scoreboard. Obsess over the reps. Do the work. Track the inputs. Refine the system. Let the compound effect do the rest. One final idea Hardy introduces is the power of one more step. When you're tired, when you've done the minimum, when your brain says, that's enough, do one more rep, one more pitch, one more video, one more uncomfortable action, because that's the step everyone else skips. That's the step that gives you the edge. Success is not doing more than others occasionally. It's doing slightly more than others, always. It's not a 10 by 10 move. It's a 1.0, 1x effort, every day, that compounds into a totally different outcome. You've made it this far, and maybe the biggest realization you're having right now is this. You already know what to do. The question is, are you willing to become the person who does it, every day, without excuses, without hype, without waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect strategy, or the perfect season? Because that is what separates the few who build unstoppable momentum from the many who never leave the starting line. By now, you've probably realized something. The compound effect isn't just a strategy, it's a worldview. It's how the most successful people think, act, and live. It's how entrepreneurs go from invisible to unstoppable. And it's how you separate from the crowd, quietly, consistently, relentlessly. You don't win because you're lucky. You win because you've trained yourself to show up when others won't. You win because you respect the process, even when no one else claps for it. You win because you're done waiting to feel ready. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. That's not just Hardy's advice, it's the law of results. And when you truly accept that, everything changes. You stop blaming, you stop hesitating, you stop making excuses. You take back control of your habits, your routines, your environment, your inputs, and every single day becomes a vote for the life you want. Let's end with this. There are two versions of you, one that keeps trying and one that finally commits, one that hopes and one that executes, one that consumes more content, and one that says, this is the last video I need to watch before I act. The first version fades into average. The second one becomes dangerous, unstoppable, consistent, and free. The choice between those two versions? You make it in the next 24 hours with your calendar, your actions, your decisions. You make your choices, and then your choices make you. So, if you're listening to this while scrolling, if you're halfway through your day, if you've got 1,000 tabs open in your brain, pause, breathe, ask yourself, what's one tiny behavior I can lock in today? And repeat every day for the next year. Not something grand, not something flashy, something so small I can't fail at doing it. Because that's where it all begins. That's how you shift your identity. That's how you take your power back. That's how you become the entrepreneur no one sees coming, until it's too late. Maybe you don't feel ready, that's fine. But the compound effect doesn't care how you feel, it cares what you do. So here's your challenge. Don't just listen to this, live it, build the habits, track the inputs, guard your mind, cut the excuses, stack the wins, respect the reps, and remember, small, smart choices plus consistency plus time equals radical results. That's the formula, and once you accept it, not just intellectually, but emotionally, you'll never go back, you'll stop chasing, and you'll start compounding.